Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode number 244 of the 31st Lap Podcast. Excited to have you all along for the ride here as we move through the fall and head towards the end of the 2018 racing season. Jeez, it feels like we just got started with it. We got a ton of stuff to get to. There's racing action getting ready to take flight down in Charlotte this weekend and next weekend. We'll hit a little bit on what we're looking at in terms of the World Finals that are coming up on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of November for the dirt car modifieds, the World of Outlaw sprint cars, late models that are all wrapping up their season down there. Non-points racing happening this weekend, and the World Short Track Championships down there at Charlotte. Our Northeast Sportsman competitors are going to be down there trying to steal the ring. Dave Marcichelli won that race last year. We'll get into that. Eastern States weekend. We've got some stuff about Utica Rome coming up. We've also got some stuff from Outlaw Speedway to recap here from last weekend. They ran on top of Eastern States weekend. And in addition to Eastern States weekend, there was racing, I think, in Delaware and in Pennsylvania as well. So really a lot of options for modified racers spread it all over the place. We had action at Outlaw on Friday night. The modifieds didn't get their show in on Saturday. That's been moved to the 10th of November. So we'll dive into all that. Before we get to all that stuff, though, we've got a guest coming on the air who it was a unique way that we came across one another, but I'm still thinking that it's going to be a fun interview, racing everything under the sun. The only thing is, as Paul Crynock described it, was he hasn't raced submarines or helicopters, but everything else that's happened, drag cars, tractor pulls, demolition derby entries, stock cars, dirt cars, now moving into asphalt cars. And it was that we stumbled across a picture of this year's asphalt car, and it was painted up like Richard Petty's car, and I'm a big mark for Richard Petty. It turns out Paul and his family are as well. So without any further delay, the one and only Paul Crynock III joining us from his shop down in Pennsylvania. Paul, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on this evening.
For sure, man. I want first and foremost, the background of that car. That was such a good-looking race car, and everybody's, it's pretty iconic, really, when you think about the history of Richard Petty.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. We're long-time racing and Petty fans, and we just thought, with being a Pontiac Grand Prix, and Richard running those through the 80s, and we just, that paint scheme, like I said, again, iconic, and the red, white, and blue, you just can't beat those colors under the, the Saturday night lights of the racetrack.
Sure.
And, it was kind of a tribute to my father as well, who always ran that paint scheme when I was young, and then he actually allowed me to take that paint scheme over, inherit the 43 number, and he moved on to number 45.
Okay.
In light of Adam Petty.
Sure.
So it was kind of a tribute to him this season. That was formerly his car, and like I said, we took it off the dirt and moved it to asphalt. But that was kind of the tribute, not only to my dad, but the Petty family racing as well.
The season this year was supposed to be the last season that you're racing, and what a season it's been. With all the wins and the accolades and everything, how great has the 2018 season been to you?
I'll tell you, it's been one of the best for us. It's like I said, I describe it. It's not even over yet. We have an event this weekend, but it's been a Cinderella season. We were able to win a number of demolition derbies, and like I said, we did well on the asphalt and bring home some dirt track wins, and across different divisions and different venues. It's just been great for us, and I can't thank everybody enough for the help they provide and the community support around here as well. I mean, it's just been fantastic.
The car that you run on the dirt is not the same car that you're running on the asphalt, right? It's a different entry altogether?
That's correct. That's two separate vehicles.
And we've got a picture of it. This is the win from at the end of the year at Lernerville. That ended up being a pretty important win for you guys and as a whole, coming up with a win there at their this was at the Silver Cup, right?
That's correct. That was their Steel City Stampede, and that particular day, that 100-lap endurance race capped off their 13-feature event. That was a 13-and-a-half-hour day for us that particular day.
Wow!
And to hold on to it, and then come out at the end with the win. Not only it meant a lot to us because that was our second Steel City Stampede belt buckle we brought home. But there was also another gentleman we were racing against that was going for the Triple Crown and what I believe his first belt buckle. So it ended up a great two-car battle for about 50 to 60 laps of that race. Good clean racing, good hard racing. But we were fortunate we were able to come out on top.
So let's dial it back and start at the beginning if we can. With your dad has 30 years of racing experience under his belt. You've got 27 years of racing experience under your belt. You guys go back a long way.
Oh yeah. It's we've come a long way from where we started. That's for sure. There's several interesting stories we tell around the shop that people still get a kick out of. But we've been doing this, and these are all consecutive years.
Right.
Actually, my father turned 60 years old this year, and he built a brand new garage in his driveway so that he could get his race cars in and get cracking on them over the winter.
So he's going to be racing next year, right? There's just no option there.
Yeah, he's going to be racing, and pretty much it comes down to not only is he my favorite racer.
Right.
But he's the guy that we have plenty of competition amongst us as well.
Sure. There's a good look at the dad's car here. The blue and red, white, and blue colors of the number 45, and that was I assume that might have been taken against one of the dirt cars. Anyway, that's the can't tell what car's in the background. It looks like an Avenger or Stratus in the background.
Yes, that probably would have been Bedford Speedway.
It's at Bedford.
With his car on there.
Right. So
and God love him. Like I said, 60 years old, still racing, and he hung in there, and he actually didn't get his first feature win until he was 52 years old.
Wow.
And he went on to win the championship that same season.
That's cool.
So.
It took a long way to get there, but man, it wasn't worth it. So what did he run?
That's what it's been our whole career is perseverance and persistence.
Right. What did he run when he first got into it? I mean, you down there, you're in loose vicinity of Pittsburgh, New Alex, and stuff like that. So in that part of the state, you've got a lot of options for cars. Just the premier divisions, you're looking at late model sprint cars and dirt modifieds, but you've got a lot of options along with that.
Oh yes. He actually started out. It's kind of come full circle for us, really. His first entry for both of us. We started out in the Enduros, and there was a place, Hill Valley Speedway.
Okay.
Now this was a I think it's between like an 8.25 mile circle. It's not even oval. There's no straightaways. Kind of old dirt track bull ring racing.
Right.
And they used to put 150 cars out on that speedway and battle it out to the end, and that's
wow.
That's how both he and I got started. That's why I started my racing career as well.
Sure. So he's racing. He doesn't get his first championship until he's the age 52. By that point, you've got to be in the car as well. What did you start in the Enduros as well?
Yes, I started. Well, what had happened is they when we would run the Enduros down there, what they ended up doing was evolving the Enduro cars into what they called a Thunder car division.
Okay.
In both the 4-cylinder and V8. So it would be like your entry-level hobby division of today.
Sure.
And so we ended up taking those cars, and then I ended up starting in the Thunder car division, and I ran a rear-wheel drive Chevy Chevette, of all things. But it taught me a lot. I did at that particular time. I did a lot more losing than winning. That's for sure.
It's a moderately underpowered car, to say the least.
Oh yeah.
So what did you get into after that? Because you guys have done a lot in a lot of different walks of motorsport. So what happened from there?
Yes, we went on to, we stuck with that four-cylinder rear-wheel drive division through the early part of the 90s. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't even have a driver's license at that time yet. I would just get in and race. My dad would get the vehicle to the racetrack, and he and I at the time would alternate racing the cars. Because again, we've never been a big budget team.
Right.
We don't haul with big stickers and big trailers, so we've always done the best we could with what we had. So we would come out of those cars, and then we got into pure stock division,
mm-hmm.
the V8 pure stocks, and raced those through the late 90s. And then I went into the service in the military, and I was stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, and then I moved on to super stock racing out there, which would be equivalent to like a semi-late back in this area.
Yep.
A semi-late of the 90s. And then we got into that, and then I came back to Pennsylvania, and then I was back into four-cylinder front-wheel drive racing in this local area here, locally at Dog Hollow Speedway, Bedford Speedway, on a regular basis. And then we did that up until several years ago, and then went on to run these Enduros, and we've been running the Enduros pretty steady ever since 2011. Since they started to make their way back onto the scene.
Right. And you spent some time, you talked about Dog Hollow, Bedford, and if I remember right, you said you were at Jennerstown quite a bit as well, right?
Yes, Jennerstown, we made our comeback. Now, I also ran an Enduro. My first experience on asphalt was in the mid-'90s.
Right.
And that was an Enduro race there, 4th of July race. And then this season was my first two races back. We raced the two Enduro races with that Pontiac that you've seen, the 43 car. That was new for me this year.
How do you make the transition in an Enduro car from dirt to asphalt? There's not a lot that you can do to the cars to begin with, so do you just go show up at the track and drive the car, or is there some science to it? There's some geometry that you got to worry about in terms of what you're doing with the car suspension-wise. Is there issues in terms of your tire choice? What do you do to make that transition from one surface to the other?
Well, and you are correct. They do limit us in what modifications we can make, and we are racing on street tires as well. Mm-hmm. But the biggest part of it, I'm still learning it, to be honest with you. That's the challenge of it. We're still working it out. But yeah, it's a lot of front end geometry. The toughest part that I had to focus on was the style of driving. A lot of it can be done in the seat because we progressed a lot from even the first to second race. Again, setting up the front end geometry, trying tire wear, heating the brakes. There's a lot of things we're factoring in. A lot of small things, but they mean a lot in your overall finish on the race.
Sure.
So, again, we're still working a lot of that out, trying to figure out the asphalt, but it was certainly a night and day transition from the dirt, that's for sure.
Do you miss the dirt?
I enjoy the challenge of the asphalt, but dirt is my first love.
Having been in the four-cylinder since 11, time can fly so fast. It probably doesn't even feel like it's been 7 years. But at the same time, having been around the semi-stocks or super stocks or pure stocks and some of the stuff out there in Colorado, do you miss any of that, or have you got enough of the taste of the expense of driving those bigger cars that this Enduro stuff fits pretty well?
And like I said, again, how we mentioned earlier, this was actually supposed to be my winding down season.
Right.
This was actually supposed to be my retirement year. But, like I said, at 27 consecutive years in this, obviously everyone knows the expense of racing is very difficult to, keep up with. Sure. I'm always fortunate. I always feel fortunate just to still be part of it after this, length of time. Take all the wins, and like you said, the accolades aside. I mean, just the, being proud of a 27-year career on top of that already is just, I'm proud of that fact as well. But as far as right now, getting back into anything expensive, truthfully, I can't disclose anything for next season.
Okay.
So, but we got some things in the works. How far we're going to go with it yet, I'm not sure.
Sure. Do you miss it? I mean, with the amount of time that you spent in these cars, and the amount of time that you spent racing these cars with your dad, I feel like I have to ask the question, but I kind of already know what the answer is. You know, what's the favorite division for you to run?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Out of everything we've done, I'm by heart a pure stock racer.
Oh yeah.
I love the late '90s, early 2000s pure stock.
Okay.
I thought that was a wonderful division. That's where my heart is. But as far as enjoyable to race, I mean, these enduro cars they're just too cool.
Right.
It's just so much fun, you know.
Well, it would seem that there's a lot more pressure that comes with that. Your heart can be with the pure stocks as much as you want it to be, but for one, your wallet might not want to agree with your heart. And then on top of that, if you're already investing a lot of time with the enduro car, your time is going to go up exponentially when you get into some of those bigger divisions. You know, we saw those up here in the Finger Lakes part of New York, where they had the novice and then the street and then the pro stocks at some of our local tracks, and they would have the same car running in all three divisions. But then as things evolved, you couldn't run the pro class car in the novice because they were doing too many things that made the car not fit. So then we had the advent of the pro stock class, which was under the Dirt Motorsports banner way back then, and it still exists now. Jocelyn Roy just finished the championship season here in 2018 in the same division, but not nearly as many tracks run that. And then that car itself got sort of I guess maybe manipulated is the way to say it, where the tracks that had an existing pro stock class didn't want to adjust and fit to what the pro stock unified rules were. So you had tracks that were making a rule package that sort of locked the cars into only running at one place. The one that really comes to mind is the pro stocks that ran, the super stocks that ran at Outlaw Raceway. You know, some of those cars were still on split rims back in the early 2000s. And they had the big cladding on the side, you know, the big bars and stuff like that. And it just didn't look the same as what the pro stocks were. And they evolved in a very different trajectory, even though they came from that same route. And one of the biggest issues that they had with that class was, and ultimately led to the death of the class, and everybody can nostalgically look back now and say that they missed those cars, it was the expense that was tied to it. And they were ultimately replaced by a crate late model division. Gary Montgomery had a touring BRP Can-Am late model series, and it was crate engines. And I think they ran the 602s, possibly the 604 crate engines, and that started infiltrating a little bit more. And now we've got a number of tracks up here, Fulton Speedway, Outlaw, just to name two that pop right off the top of my head. They have a crate late model division that's pretty healthy. But that again, the extreme cost that came with those is really what drove it out. And now we've seen the constant reset, especially at the dirt tracks, where everything grows and grows and grows and evolves, and it's like, well, this is crazy, this is too expensive, let's go back to the beginning. And then we see the hobby stock division come back, and now we've seen a very pure stock hobby stock division at Outlaw running in conjunction with their street stocks, running in conjunction with running on the same night, I should say, not in conjunction, running on the same night as their street stocks, on the same night as their crate late models. So you can see in a given night the progression and the ladder that you might climb up, but they are still very, very different divisions.
Correct. Right. And that's the same thing, and I agree with that 100%. And that I think that's affected a lot of speedways everywhere, because it was kind of the same. It's the same story here at our local races.
Right.
It's the exact same thing. And yes, and that is another part of it. Is even for us, like I said, we've always been kind of a low budget team, and making the best of what we have. But yeah, the expense is certainly a factor in what we do today as well. There's no question. And the other thing is not only that, then even dropping down, I mean, we're still having success at it, at this stage of the career is just wonderful, because, I'll be the first to tell you that humbled by every win, and, you never know if or when the next one is coming. So,
right.
Like I said, to stay in it and the longevity. But yeah, that's with those bigger classes. It's tough to stay long term in that type of racing.
We've got a couple tracks up here in the mid 2000s that had that enduro deal going. Some of them are still doing it, and then it just sort of went away, and they now just have a 4-cylinder division. Outlaw Speedway, Black Rock Speedway in Dundee, was always a true four-cylinder division. Brewerton has had maybe Fulton has had a four-cylinder division for a while. Weedsport Speedway, or Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds in Weedsport, back then had an enduro class that would run at the end of the night, but they capped it at 25 laps, 30 laps, something like that. So in terms of it being a true enduro, like what you're describing, where it's 100 laps and there's a minimum of yellow flags or more aptly red flags, only when the track gets occluded or there's a fire or a hazard that's going to cause an issue for a driver. It wasn't the same pure enduro type racing as what we saw before. It was more of a sort of four-cylinder class of very stock, very very restricted rule book, and very limited in terms of what they could do to help keep the price down. And it was effective for a little while, but then later on in the year, people got more catastrophic failures, or they had issues with their cars and got to a point where they ran out of money or wanted to do other things. Because to steal your discussion of it, there's only 120 days in summer, and if you spend 110 of them working on a race car, it gets long in the tooth after a while.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's been us this season. Actually, what I've decided to do is we flip things around this year. For the first time in all these years, because of being in Pennsylvania, obviously, winter's longer than summer.
Yes.
And what we're going to do this year is I put everything else on hold, and we're just going to continue, like as we finish off our season this weekend, we're just going to continue right on through the winter, and try to build everything over the winter to be prepared when we get those 120 days of summer. We plan on running an event almost every weekend next year, so whether it be Demolition Derby or Enduros. And like I said, there's some other things in the works that I can't put out there just yet.
All right.
But we're going to do a lot of things over the winter and have another full summer. But to try to run 16 to 20 weekends, and then build the 6 days in between is just not feasible right now.
No,
so we're going to do it over this winter.
This year, you said you didn't chase points any place. You just went to the shows that you wanted to go to. This weekend's event is coming up. The Venom Van's going to be back out at New Alex. You're going to be running a Demolition Derby event this weekend, but there's still racing and stuff that's happened in the weeks prior. What did that change in terms of your summer preparation? Not having to worry about being at the same track weekly. It's got to take the pressure off and let you focus on preparation better almost. I don't know. Does that make sense, where you're not so focused on making sure that you're there and getting the car ready for that track? You can get the car ready for where you're going, and you don't have to worry so much about the points mix and forging out a good finish. If you win, great. If you don't, oh well, we'll put it back together, and we don't have to worry about getting it together for next week.
Yeah. As far as that aspect of it, yes, that is correct. It takes the pressure off of being, say, ready to race every Friday or every Saturday night. But what we've done with running, we're simultaneously doing the derbies as well as the racing, and the preparation for the asphalt, which was brand new to us.
Right.
There was a lot of times that we were overlapping cars building them.
Sure.
We would have 2 or 3 Demolition Derby cars, sitting outside the garage while we had 2 race cars inside the garage, or vice versa. So there was a lot of times that, we ran, we would run 2 events in the same weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So not necessarily the pressure of being there for a points finish or, having to go out there and run and win the race because it was necessary. We could go out and run a little more leisurely, and we're always competing for the win, of course. But there was a lot of times the overlap in the build. That's what put us in the garage those 110 days out of the summer, because we had as soon as we would unload the trailer and put that vehicle away, we started the next day on the very next build.
Right.
And that happened all summer long.
Have you ever had an enduro car that got hurt in a race that you ended up bringing back to the shop and thinking, well, we can't save this one, let's just cut it up and make it into a derby car?
Well, it was actually that we did have that at Cumberland Speedway in one of their enduro races, and we didn't even have the opportunity to make it a derby car. It looked like it had already been there and back.
Yikes!
We unfortunately hit a parked car. Because again, like you said, it's either green or red flag racing,
right?
And the broke down vehicles were on the track, and Yeah, unfortunately, there was an incident on the middle of the back straightaway. I drove head-on into a parked car. The car broke loose coming out of the turn, and I couldn't get it back under control and drove into that car. And that was a very big loss for us because that car did very well. We won several Enduros with that. And, that car was that car was destined to win many more races, and unfortunately that was the final ride.
Have you ever wrecked a car that you thought, man, I probably should have saved this one for a derby after you got in the process of building it? Or save it for an Enduro?
There's been a few I wish I had back.
Yeah, save it for an Enduro.
There's been a few I wish I would have went a different direction with.
I believe it. I don't want to belabor for next year because I know that you're working on something and we can't get into it, so that's fair. I'm not going that route. Do you plan on spending more time running on the asphalt, or are you going to try and transition back to dirt?
We're going to run both next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to see Jennerstown. Jennerstown it's a 45-minute haul for us, so it's plenty manageable to get to the racetrack.
Sure.
And it's on a Saturday night where a lot of the events run, either during the week or as far as derbies during the week, and then a lot of the racing at the other tracks are Friday night. Right. So the schedule's not a concern for us, and they do run a Enduro the third week of the third week of the 5 months of summer. They do run racing from April to September. So we're going to try to make all 5 of those Enduros on the asphalt, and see if we can better ourselves from last season, or from this season. Excuse me.
That's going to be cool. Do they do any type of points with that? They chart your finishes or anything, and given that they do specifically 5.
They do. They do. They cool. Actually have a points. They have a point set up for the season for those 5 races, which we did not know that when we went down there. Again, I haven't. It was a pretty big hiatus from the speedway from the mid '90s till we went back here in 2018. Now that we know a little more about it, we're going to prepare a little differently as well.
Sure.
But we're going to really focus on doing something with the points down there. The unfortunate thing with the Pontiac, we're a little bit outgunned compared to some of what the cars that are running down there.
Right.
But again, that's also part of the learning curve. We didn't know that till we got there.
Right.
So,
we've talked a lot about turning left in all different walks of car here, but you said that you got experience in drag racing and tractor pulling as well.
We did truck pulls. We did.
Okay.
It was. I dabbled in all that. That was back when it was plenty younger and a lot more ambition. And as far as the physical ability as well. But we would do county fair, truck pulling, things of that nature. A lot of local stuff. I will, as much as we've been traveling lately. Even say like the Lernerville, that's a 2-hour haul for us. I still do not want to give up on anything local. That's where it all started. And the only way to keep those things going is to participate with it,
sure.
or, in those events. So, we have done, did some drag racing in Colorado as well. And, again, my grew up with, from being a little guy. My dad did a lot of drag racing as well down in Virginia. And down at Richmond Speedway.
Okay.
And, as far as the truck pulls as well, we did that at the local county fairs.
The drag racing stuff, what did he have for a car?
67 GTO.
Nice. How about you? What did you have in Colorado?
Duster. 72 Plymouth Duster.
Wow.
I'm a Mopar guy.
Right.
I'm a Mopar guy by heart. Actually, even that Cavalier, or that car you've seen at the Lernerville Enduro win.
Yeah.
We actually put a Dodge Neon front end on the front of that Cavalier because I'm diehard Mopar, man.
So what advantage was there in putting the Neon front end on the Cavalier? It was just simply because, hey, this seems like a good idea to do it, or was there some ideas around it, sheet metal, geometries? Was there an advantage there? That seems like a lot of work just to say that it was a Dodge piece.
I got to be honest with you. That's simply the reason was the conversation part of it, the conversation piece.
That's cool.
there was no advantage to it whatsoever. It just didn't look like anybody else's car there. So we wanted to set it apart as well.
Indeed, it didn't. The number 45, was that a Neon as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was a Dodge Neon. That was the car that he won the track championship with.
Oh, okay.
Was the 45 car that was probably in the photo you've seen. It was probably a picture of he and I side by side in a 4-cylinders.
Yeah, it looked like the yellow.
That was his Dodge.
The yellow car looked like it was like a Stratus or something.
Well, there was I'm not sure which picture you've seen,
okay.
but there was a Neon that he was running as well, and that was in 2011.
Yeah.
And that was kind of when we made our transition, back from got out of the 4-cylinder weekly thing after he won his championship. We did that for a few more years in conjunction with the start of the Enduros, because they went away there for a while.
Yeah.
And then we went out, the Lernerville thing for me, being that far away, it just started. I found them, I was actually just got on the internet and looked for a close Enduro, and that's what took us to Lernerville. And again, we've ended up doing very well down there, but it was kind of just, a little bit of luck that's what popped up first, and that's where we went racing. And in 2011, 12, and 13, we were able to pull off several wins down there and pick up a Stampede win. So, I guess it all happens for a reason, I suppose.
I guess it's better to be lucky than good, huh?
Sometimes. Most times.
You got a van in the shop right now, and then there's a car sitting next to it. Is there some sort of master plan for Saturday?
Yeah, we are, weather permitting. For the second time, I'm going to try to do, and the weather's not looking good for racing.
Right.
The Derby is a rain or shine event down at New Alexandria.
Sure.
For Fall Brawl. But the van is going to be a guaranteed run, and the race car, we are once again prepping to go for another 100-lap Enduro at Dog Hollow Speedway, again, weather permitting, and we're going to run. I'm going to get in and do double duty on Saturday. We're going to go to the Fall Brawl and run the Venom van, and then I'm going to take the race car with me, and when I'm done with that run, then I'm going to head over to the Speedway and see what we can do in the Enduro race, again, weather and time permitting.
Sure. Yeah, it's all, at least on the side of the Demolition Derby thing, as soon as you get on track, the harder you drive, theoretically, the sooner you could leave, right? Right.
I didn't look at it that way, but yeah, that's very accurate.
Well, I think that's cool. Pulling that double duty, that's going to be it'd be neat to accomplish it.
Yeah, we did it last season. Last season we pulled it off as well. We went to a Demolition Derby at Whiskey Grove in Somerset, PA, okay. And then after the Derby, I got in the which along with this, giving me the opportunity to do this. And I want to make this, emphasize this, a big part of it is, there's such a big amount of help that I get, friends, family, and so on, helping me to do this, people, because obviously I can't, tow 2 vehicles and things like that. So, I've had a lot of tremendous help with that. But we went down there, ran the Demolition Derby that day, got in the truck, drove an hour from Somerset back to the Speedway at Dog Hollow. And the gentleman that was towing my car to the race, I actually beat him to the Speedway by 5 minutes. So they were lining me in. They were lining Enduro race. I didn't have my score, which is my wife Denise. I didn't have my score, nor did I have my car.
Right.
And they were lining the vehicles up on the Speedway.
Right.
And we were able to get the car unloaded, get it tacked in a very speedy fashion, and then tack on to the end of the field. And went on to win that race on the 100th lap. I passed the gentleman in the lead on the 99th lap and went on to take the checkered flag.
Man, what a day.
It was a very, very cool day.
That's outstanding. That's cool.
We're kind of hoping that maybe history will repeat itself this Saturday.
That'd be all right, right? I mean, it's not a bad combination. I was going to ask you actually about W bodies. How popular they are with Demolition Derby's Aluminos and stuff like that. You talked about the Grand Prix, but you sort of answered that with the Mopar side of things. Have you ever gone so far as to convert one of the front wheel drive cars to rear wheel drive?
No, I have not done that personally. No, I have not anything like that. There's been lots of talk about it.
Yeah.
Putting a small block Mopar in a Dodge Daytona would be pretty cool, but
that would be.
It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's not as bad as probably you would think either.
Oh no. Enough time we can accomplish anything. So it's not off the table yet.
So I mean, I saw you post on social media today that you're shutting down the shop. What's the shop? That's Crynock Motorsports itself, or is that something different?
No, it's actually no. I have a auto repair business. It's
Okay.
Crynock Auto Repair.
Mm-hmm.
And I do these vehicles at the same shop that I have my business in.
Yeah.
Which has actually helped out quite a bit. So, the reason I had to post today about shutting the shop down is because I'm usually a 12-hour day guy,
Right.
and to keep this running, not only being a small business owner, but again, these cars do not pay for themselves.
No. I know.
So we keep things going that way financially. But yeah, it's a very, very good business here. Do very well. Big time support of the community, and we try to stay invested with the community. And I grew up here in Crescent. So this is also a dream of mine as well, to be able to open a shop and on top of that be successful. So, but the problem with that is with us doing this today, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too busy here that we couldn't get this done. So
Perfect.
that's what that was all about.
And you also got to make sure you don't accidentally let one of the derby cars slip into one of the customer vehicles, right?
Sometimes. Yeah. Believe it or not, one of our another story from this season, there was actually a gentleman had stopped here, and he said, "I see that you run the demolition derbies," and he dropped off a car, and he gave me the vehicle, donated the vehicle to the motorsports program.
Really?
And yep, we actually, and then on top of that, it was so cool. We were still able to, the event that we were going to run it in was 3 months away, which was the Cambria County Fair here in September. And we ended up driving the car it was so nice, we ended up driving the car as a shop vehicle for the rest of the summer.
Right.
And then we took it to the 4-cylinder compact division and won the division with it this year at the fair.
Wow. What kind of car was that?
Yes. Oldsmobile Alero.
Yeah, that's a
2000 Oldsmobile Alero with a 2.4 4-cylinder.
Yep, W body. It's the way to go. Yeah, those are winners. You were talking about the community.
Oh, yeah, and it.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, and it was pushing a pointy as well.
Nice.
So.
That's reference to the bumper that was on the front of that. The pointed bumper is preferred to get a little bit deeper into the wheel wells when you're trying to knock the front wheels off of those compact entries. You're talking about the community and the influence and things along those lines. I imagine if you're that deep into the community, you've got some community partners as well. Have you got any sponsors or anybody that you want to make mention of?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot of folks that help out, and my wife runs a business as well, and she's she's very much there for me all the time. Venom Athletics is a program that she has, and again, it is a competitive cheerleading company, but she's those kids mean everything to her.
Sure.
She does a great job with that, and that's also where the Venom van came from, because that was donated. That was actually her daily driver minivan that we ended up taking to the county fair with, and we won the first ever Cambria County minivan derby with that as well.
Right.
So that was the story behind the minivan, or the Venom van, excuse me. And then there's another company, Altoona Soft Water. They've helped us out this season, and they've also donated things to my wife's program with the athletics. We put on a Power Wheels demolition derby in the parking lot of a cheerleading company, and then of my wife's cheerleading company, and then also had a small car show with our race cars and the Venom van and derby vehicles. We put a small car show on as well.
Nice.
And I got to thank Big Dog Graphics. He's the one. I'm sure you've seen the double zeros sticking out on the side of that Enduro car. That was done by that company. And, there's another small garage here, good friend of mine, McCluskey Tire and Muffler. He helps out. And there's Vin Glass Brothers Towing, who was right up the street with them. And Joel and his family have been with me over my entire career. And like I said, like getting these cars, to and from the events, those guys help out tremendously. And, they've helped me out with vehicles, parts, and such. And there's another local family, the Williams Family Derby. They're local here in Crescent. They've the patriarch of that family, Mr. Charlie Williams. He's done it even longer than me, and he was kind of my mentor growing up in the Derby world. So I'd like to thank all those folks and appreciate everything they've done.
So one of the final questions I've got for you is, has Richard Petty ever seen any of your cars?
I tell you what, years ago,
yeah,
years ago, he has the Richard Petty. He has that fan club.
Yeah,
that he does down in, and I believe it's still in Level Cross.
Yeah,
and we sent not only the pictures of the 43 cars that we did, but when my dad converted to the 45, we would run the same paint scheme, the red, white, and blue, mm-hmm. 43 and 45. Mm-hmm. And we sent pictures to that fan club. And they said that they make their way into like a little hallway they have down there. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to make it down there one day to check that place out. And maybe even a meet and greet with Richard if possible. But
sure.
With Mr. Petty. But I've never got any response that he picked ours out personally. I know that's like you said in the beginning, a very iconic scheme, mm-hmm. and it's not uncommon to go to a speedway and see a red, white, and blue 43 running around there. So. Maybe one day,
right.
And like I said, if Mr. Petty hears that, we're certainly interested in meeting the king himself. So,
yeah, the scheme that's on that was the one that sort of went, ballpark it here, like 84 up to when he retired in 92. The scheme didn't change a whole lot. They just had some dark blue pinstriping up and below the white stripe on the side, in contrast with the lighter blue and the red. And that came on and off at different intervals, and then sometimes the red swooped up diagonally up the quarter panel towards the fuel fill hole. But other than that, it stayed pretty much the same.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like I said, it doesn't really get any bigger than the Petties, in my opinion. So, and not only that, obviously they're a class act operation, and one of the cool, just quick thing that I remember hearing about the Petties is. Cal Petty told the story that when his mother Linda and himself would be sitting in the station wagon after a race, that Richard Petty would stand, and if there was a line that was a half mile long, Richard Petty would stand there and sign every autograph that somebody wanted.
Right.
And I just thought, man, if there's anybody you're going to idolize, it doesn't get any cooler than that. So
sure.
That was just one thing that always stuck out with me.
Yep, definitely. You ever run any of the 70 schemes on the cars, or was that pretty much the one that you've gone with?
The 43 was the bulk of it for most of my career. Actually, we ran it so much on everything, both the racing and the derbies, that I've actually been told several times to kind of change the station. But like I said, I was just so enamored with all of it. That's all that there was for me back then. But no, pretty much just not really any kind of throwback stuff or anything of that nature. Just like I said, the Petty thing as you've seen in the pictures.
Yeah, I think no matter what paint scheme you put on the car, if you put it in victory lane as much as you have, they're going to get sick of seeing that.
True. And another thing that I also took from that, they always asked Richard Petty why he never put his name on the car, and he always told them, he says, if you're good enough, people will know.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
It's like I said, just a class act operation, and, very easy to idolize those kind of people.
For sure. Well, man, is there anything else that we missed? Any of the bridges that we didn't cross?
Everything sounds cool. I would like to just, mention something. Sure. Actually, the gentleman sitting here right beside me, but a friend of mine, we call him Twig. His name is Sean Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. He's been pretty much invaluable to this whole operation. I mean, he's with me day in, day out. As a matter of fact, when we hang up tonight, we're going to work on some more cars and get things prepped. But he's actually here this evening. But I just wanted to give him a shout out and appreciate everything that he does for us.
Awesome. Well, it's always good to have more hands than you need, and sometimes the hands you need are the ones that are there all the time. It's good to have guys like that in the shop.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, there's been many along the way. I mean, there's been over. You can imagine over 27 years. You accumulate a stack of memories with folks. And truth be told, that's been my favorite part of the whole racing deal. Was getting to meet the people, the places it's taken me. Here again, if I had retired last year, you and I might not even be speaking right now. So,
I know.
I appreciate this awesome opportunity and meeting you as well.
Sure, man. We'll cross paths again at some point, I'm sure. Especially given that you're at New Alex as often as you are. We'll cross paths again for sure next year too. When you get closer to being able to announce it, or after you pick up your first couple of wins next year, check back in and let me know how everything's going, because we can't talk about it yet, but eventually it's going to come out.
Oh, absolutely. So, the biggest thing is I just want to make sure we got everything in order, before we announce which way we're going. So,
I understand.
One personal achievement that I have not accomplished is I am not a track champion. That is the one trophy that I have not achieved in all this career yet. I have just as many seconds as Mark Martin, but I've been the bridesmaid a lot of times, and that's no disrespect to Mark. Obviously, he's an amazing racer, an amazing guy. But we have a ton of seconds, but never was able to bring home the big trophy. So I'm not sure I'm quite ready now to give that up until maybe we accomplish that, and that might be the direction that we're heading.
Well, I wish you the best. It'd be great. It'd be great to hear that the 2019 season culminated with a track championship.
And we're hoping that's the direction we're able to go, and I appreciate that. Awesome.
Well, for sure, I appreciate you coming on the show, and this was a pretty productive 45 minutes. I really enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to catching up with you again.
Okay, and again, thank you for having me, and I appreciate what you did for us here, and we'll certainly be in touch.
Anytime. Look them up, Facebook, Crynock Motorsports, and spelling was right there on the screen. You can find it real easy, Crynock Motorsports on Facebook. Check them out. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Paul. We'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You bet. Take care now. There goes Paul Crynock. Appreciate him coming on the show and hanging out with us for a little while. Locally, lots of stuff that's been going on. Tons and tons of racing because we haven't been on here for a couple weeks. We got out of the way a little bit, tried to open up the door some for Final Round Drag Racing Podcast. They were coming up on their 2-year anniversary last week. And if the schedule fell right, they would be on in line with episode number 50 on the 2-year anniversary, which means that as a show that goes every other week, they've only missed 2 episodes in 2 years, which is cool. So congratulations to Jason Oldfield and the crew from Final Round. They'll be back on again next week. Dirt car racing this weekend is the World Short Track Championships at Charlotte. The heats are tomorrow, 30-lap feature for the Northeast Sportsmen, which are on the schedule. A bunch of different divisions racing down there. Dave Marcachelli won the thing last year. Kevin Root won the Sportsman Championship after the Northeast season concluded up in Brockville, so that was cool. As we said earlier, Jocelyn Roy won the Pro Stock Championship overall. Also in conjunction with the racing at Brockville, this is going back a ways, Matt Williamson took the feature at that Northeast Dirt Car Finals. He won the 358 race, and Larry White ended up the champion in the 358 division. Peter Britton won the 358 race up at Super Dirt Week in Oswego. Staying on that topic, the Dirt Car World Finals are going to be November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd up in Brockville a couple weeks back. Eric Rudolph came away with a win in that one. Larry White won Super Dirt Week's modified 200-lapper at Mohawk and Fonda. Tim Fuller took the wins there. Looking at the points going into the World Finals, Matt Shepard has 4 wins, and he's 40 points up on Rudolph. Rudolph has 2 wins. Danny Johnson's 3rd. He's 198 points back. So it looks like it's a 2-horse race right there, and it's a very manageable 40 points. So Matt Shepard's got to be on point. But at the same time, Matt Shepard is always on point. He has no problem winning races, and we'll have to keep an eye on that as it progresses here November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The World Outlaw Sprint Cars and the late models are also going to finish their schedule on that weekend. The sprint car side of things, Donnie Schatz, and with 63 races started, he has 20 wins, and he's 278 points up on Brad Sweet. Brad Sweet has 9 wins. David Gravel's 3rd, 546 points behind. He's got 5 wins. Late model side of things is much, much tighter. Mike Marlar, 38 starts this year, 5 wins. Chris Madden has 22 points to gain on him, which is, over the course of 2 days, is very doable. 8 wins for Chris Madden. Brandon Shepard has 12 wins. He's leading the league in wins, and he's only 40 points behind Devin Moran, 2 wins, 198 points back for him. And as we noted, Tim McCready won the Dream out there at Eldora Speedway, so that was cool. Stuart Friesen, he picked up the win at Eastern States Weekend in the modified side of things. He pitted on lap 33 out of 200 and then went on and just rolled. He ended up taking the lead late in the going. I think there was about 40 laps to go when he made his final lead change, and he checked out. And that was that. And Brett Hearn won on weight, which was a little bit interesting for him. He won it on that weight catch where Stu Friesen was too light. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper here in a minute. Dutch Hogue Memorial Weekend, that had some issues relating to weather here a couple weeks ago. Couldn't get the whole show in. The rest of that has been moved to the 10th of November. So all that second day of the program has been nixed. Lucas Wolf won the 360 sprint feature on Friday night. Sean Donath, he led the field early, and then Justin Barger took the lead from there, and then Wolf caught him in slower traffic and checked out. That was that. Barger, Jared Zimbardi, Chuck Hebing, Sean Donath at the line in the top 5. Will Shields almost got a win in the sportsman class. What a battle he had with Stacey Jackson. Stacey Jackson ended up taking the win of it by about a car length on the last lap. Will Shields was second place. Dave Marcichelli third. Carl Comfort and Zach Sobotka filling in the top 5. Richard Michael won the IMCA race in a runaway. He won from the pole. Rodney Morgan and Mark Griffin filling in the top 3. Keith Jack Lanphier and Mike Stoddard filled up the top 5. Adam Austin, what a 4-cylinder race this was. It was a 30-lap main for the 4 cylinders. Adam Austin had to hold out Ron Darling, then Ray Heyer. Heyer actually got in front and led for a while. Cole Soucy came up to challenge him next. And ultimately, Adam Austin got the win over Soucy, Darling, and, Heyer held second over Soucy, Darling, and Scott Lehman. Jamie Eldridge held a thin lead over Aaron Milder and Jared Dennis and the hobby stock main, but it was Frank Burnell who was able to slip by everybody and take the lead at the end, and he secured it. He took the checker. Mark Manutolo was second, Greg Young third, along with Sean Lloyd and Jamie Eldridge in the top 5. Tyler Seary held off Eric Rudolph to win the 15-lap modified dash. There was about 30 cars entered, and those two are going to start on the front row for the 70-lap feature when they do the rescheduled race on November the 10th. Jared Hill won the first street stock 15-lap dash, and then Dylan Cece dominated the second. You can find more information online at outlawspeedwayllc.com. Fulton and Brewerton Speedways finalized their plans for 2019. Brewerton is going to host the Dirt Car Modifieds, where the Dirt Car 358 is allowed at the 2,400-pound minimum. Dirt Car Sportsman Mod Lights and 4 cylinders are going to be on the support card. And then at Fulton, the Dirt Car Sportsmen are going to be running along with the Dirt Car 358s, late models, and the Novice Sportsman also coming back. For more information, you can jump online at fultonspeedway.com. Point Fund money is going to be given away again, just like they do every year at FRH Hideaway in February. We talked about Stu Friesen. He got past Danny Johnson on lap 54 with 54 laps to go to secure that win. Jimmy Phelps, Tim Fuller, Matt Williamson was behind Danny Johnson at the checkers at Eastern States. Matt Shepard pitted on lap 129 and got up to 7th. And where did it go? There it is. Brett Hearn, he's 60 now, 305 career wins at Orange County Fair Speedway. Pretty good. Tough break for Stu Friesen coming up late on that one, and it was Hearn getting by Anthony Perego on lap 40, but he couldn't do anything with Friesen, and ultimately Friesen came up late. Mike Goulart got by Jerry Higby on the 10th lap of the 50-lap Short Track Super Series finale, and that was worth $10,000 to win. Lucas Wolf won the 25-lap 360 main. Empire Super Sprints are going to have their 35th anniversary banquet at Vernon Downs Hotel on December the 1st. Rules meeting is going to be at 10 a.m. You can find more details online, www.empiresupersprints.com. And then Utica Rome is going to try to race one more time this weekend on the 27th. That's going to be the Monster Mash. The card includes the Crate Sportsman, the Pro Stocks, Monster Truck Freestyle, and rides, plus a kid's trick or treat. Admission's $25. There's a general admission meet and greet from 12:30 to 1:30, with racing set to begin at 2. More information, jump online, UticaRomeSpeedway.com. Well, just like that, we have covered an hour, which is a pretty good night overall. Appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us for a little while. It's going to wrap us up here. We're going to be back again in 2 weeks, hoping to talk a little bit more about racing as we get closer and closer to well, by that time, in 2 weeks, we're going to know who's the champion of the Super Dirt Car Series, which is what we've been watching all summer long. We appreciate all the folks that tuned in and hung out with us here. And big thank you to Paul Crynock for coming on and hanging out with us. That's going to do it for us here tonight. We'll see everybody next time.